Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Friday, April 27th, 2018, and you're watching WGAN-TV live at 5. Our guests today are Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hello.
And Zamon. How are you, Zamon?
Doing great, Dan.
Good to see you. So we're very excited about our show today. Brian is a subject matter expert on the GeoSystems BLK. He's the product manager of emerging technologies for Multivista and a technologist for Leica GeoSystems. And Zamon Kingi is the director of franchise sales for Multivista. And we're going to do a little bit of explaining about these different companies, Leica GeoSystems and Multivista, and then something else that kind of ties it all together. But today is just going to be an awesome show. If you're a Matterport service provider and you're thinking about the construction, architects, engineers, all kinds of things in interesting spaces, then I think we have exactly the two right guests for you to take a deep dive into the Leica BLK360 and its relationship to Matterport, and to take a deep dive into Multivista and its alliance with Matterport. So, Zamon, there's a lot of confusion just for me to understand all the different players and the different entities. How about you walking us through that a little bit?
Certainly. So my role here, Dan, at Multivista is I'm the director of franchise sales, and I'm responsible for the growth of the company. And what I'm going to do today is just really give you kind of a big picture overview of who we are, what we do, and where we're headed. I don't want to dive too much into the weeds. However, in my role, I'm really responsible as the gatekeeper of the company culture. And so, I work closely with individuals from all over the world who are very interested in learning more about what it is we do and how we deliver it. And so really that's the purpose of this conversation today, is just to share, more about, how we've achieved what we've done and the direction that we're going, and just share with you, obviously having our in-house Jedi here, Brian Smith, having the opportunity to share some of the tech and the collaboration that we have with organizations like Matterport, like Leica, I think will be a benefit to your audience.
Terrific. So let's assume I've just parachuted down on the planet. I've never heard of Multivista, what it is, but I'm a Matterport service provider, so I kind of understand the space some. What is Multivista, and why should I care?
Certainly. Okay, I'll just give you a little bit of the backstory first of all. So it started in 2003 by two guys on the ground floor. They were fed up with the guesswork of trying to figure out the electrical wires, what was on the other side of the wall. And they developed a way to obviously index photos to floor plans. And that's the genesis of Multivista. And then it grew from there. So since that time, we're now in 75 plus markets via 60 plus franchise owners. And we have adopted that franchising model. Obviously, we can build something greater than any one of us could build alone through the franchising model.
Hang on, though. I'm still confused. You're in the construction space and you do documentation.
That is correct.
And the documentation might include photos, video, drone, live webcam. What are the services that Multivista provides?
You got it. So we're a visual documentation company, and we deliver it in the way of 2D photo, video, webcam, immersive, UAV, and also BIM integration. And that's what we provide. Right?
Okay, so let's focus just on two of those, because most of our community, the We Get Around Network Forum community, are familiar with 2D photos and video. I think I heard the word immersive, so that would be...
Oh, so we're talking Matterport, we're talking BLK360.
Okay, so that would be immersive. And then you mentioned, I want to say, BIM model.
Mm-hmm. So the integration on the BIM side, so integrating with, and Brian can certainly elaborate on this as well. But
let's assume that most of our community still may not have actually heard of what BIM. What does it stand for? What does it mean? And why does that matter in the construction space as it relates to visual storytelling that Multivista does?
Great question. And feel free to jump in here too, Brian. But BIM is, the acronym is Building Information Modeling. and obviously interfacing with architects, with engineers at the design phase. And then we're able to work with the original models and then provide the reality of what's actually going on in the projects and comparing and contrasting the reality versus the planned as-built models.
And why does that matter?
Why that matters is it gives you full accuracy and detail about the project, especially in project timeframes. If we're detecting clashes or if we're detecting problems that may be occurring that we're not aware of, we want to be able to mitigate those problems. And so these things are critical, especially to our clients, whether they be owners, right, developers, whether they be the general contractors. They want to see this information and know this information.
So let's go just a little bit slower before we go faster, because I think it's easier probably for me, perhaps our audience, to understand the construction space as it relates to the BIM model, maybe within some categories. So let's go a little bit slower and talk first about developers and owners. What is it? What is it that's important to developers and owners regarding visual documentation? Okay,
great question. And if you want to jump in here, Brian, as well. But essentially, an owner, they want a full picture overview of the project, right? And so they want to have that historical record of the project as well. They want to make sure that they have transparency. Obviously, on the teams that are delivering different services, they want to make sure that it's meeting those timelines. And so by having Multivista, it gives them that viewpoint. They can see through the different scopes of service that we provide where they're at, whether it be in the pre-slab, whether it be in, if we're doing the exteriors, the interiors. They want to be able to see that information at any time.
And general contractors, why do they care about the documentation?
Okay, so general contractors, they want to know where things are at. Essentially, that's where we started. So they want to know what's behind the walls, right? They want to be able to have information that they may not already have. So having access to that information is critical for them.
And facility managers?
Okay, so facility managers, as the project completes and it's that transition point in handover, the facility managers have an accurate record of how that building was put together. Because if you think about a construction project, let's say it's a hospital, and the construction is, say, 3 years, and the occupancy is going to be 100, for that 3%, we going forward, we have a visual record so that for the other 97 years, we know precisely, how the building was put together, if they want to expand, if they want to add additions. All of that information is made available to them through the different scopes of service that we've provided.
Mm-hmm. And architects and engineers, how is the visual documentation helpful to them? Okay,
Brian, do you want to chime in here as well?
Yeah, sure. And actually, it's interesting to be able to talk about this more recently, because we really are providing more value now to the architects and engineers with the immersive services. A lot of what you heard was construction and active construction during that process, and being able to capture the environment and engaging those stakeholders at an early age is really critical in the design and construction process. So having tools like the BLK360 and tools like the Matterport camera really allow the opportunity to engage at an earlier time during the project cycle. And they use it because of the data. That's the answer. Really, is the data. We all know that the plans that people start with are typically old, or the plans maybe don't even exist in many cases as well. So having something accurately to start from, and even if it's not a super accurate, it doesn't have to be a laser scan. Sometimes, like having that, that being able to be immersed in that spot is very valuable.
Mm-hmm. So the architect prepared the BIM model. This is what we want to build. And now you're midway through the project and there's some visual documentation that's coming in. I could imagine that may differ from what was planned. Why does that happen? And so why does this whole process of visual documentation matter as it relates to perhaps the architects and engineers at that moment in time?
Yeah, every stakeholder has kind of their own sweet spot of where they get the value out of the documentation. And documentation doesn't just have to be 2D photo or even the 3D immersive, because what they need to see is what's pertinent to those people at that time, and what's relevant. So in the example you were saying, the BIM model is perfect, right? It's always perfect because it's in our computer land. We live in this great world, but when it goes out to the field and they build it, sometimes it is exactly the way that it is goes, but it's inherent that there's always a problem. And when there's a problem, that's when having this immersive environment and the data helps the architects so they can accurately figure out something, reduce the risk, and assess the situation with a clearer perspective than somebody just saying, hey, this isn't going to work. And then most importantly, not putting that expectation on the general contractor to resolve that conflict, but actually having that whole team work together to have that RFI resolve faster, to have it be a cumulative design, so typically it's less expensive as well. And most importantly, that turnaround time from the time that something's been noted that it's wrong and doesn't match the model to the time that they can get back out and start building again is really shortened. And so it's very critical, and that's a game changer for the industry.
And are tradespeople looking at this visual storytelling as well?
That's the cool thing about having the immersive environment is that it really democratizes these complicated data sets. So instead of needing really heavy lifted point clouds and big BIM models, they can actually start to use their iPads, for example, to look at these models and see where they're at and compare it and take measurements with what's there and what's in reality. So engaging that field is something that is the industry is working very hard to leverage. We spend so much time in the office building these amazing, beautiful models, and the data typically starts the trickle. I say goes downhill really slowly after the office. And when you're out in the field, you do see paper sets of plans, which is crazy. When we think about this modern day that we live in and all the resources that went into collecting that data and building that model.
And how about government? Where do they fit into this piece?
Zamon, I'm going to let you do that one.
Okay, and that really is dependent on the markets where we have our franchise owners. So in the United States, for example, in different states there, we have franchise owners that are involved in say more government projects than say here in Canada where we are. And obviously the various stakeholders, again, coming back to the decision makers, having that access to information.
Well, I'll add an example, because I actually saw one on your website. Is the general contractor was submitting a bill to a government agency for a government project, and it was a lot of money, and they had to. It was for demolition of some part of the building, and the government person would have to go out and look at the building and make sure what was supposed to be demolished got demolished before releasing the money. But instead, they could actually go on to progress visual week 7 and see, oh, it's not there anymore. And so I think that was an example of saving time without having to go on site to do verification. I could imagine that many of these stakeholders, the developers and owners, for example, might be in a different city or a different country while a project's being built out. And I presume the standard operating procedure was to fly in a lot of people and walk around the space.
Yep. Yeah, and thank you for that. Absolutely. And also, especially with big projects on the financing end, so when the bank is actually going to pay and make the payment in draws for a particular stage of completion, they have that information. They can have that information emailed to them. It's obviously indexed to the floor plans. They've got a visual, they've got proof, evidence that the work has been delivered, and hence make that payment, saving them, as you said, from the unnecessary travel. Absolutely.
So, yeah. Perhaps even before we go too much further with Multivista and even on the Leica GeoSystems, can you tie this conversation together perhaps with this hexagon conversation so that we kind of understand the relationships between the different companies. And then I just have this burning desire to understand, well, what actually gets delivered? Because I imagine you're not emailing photos every week and emailing links to Matterport spaces and inundating people's drop boxes or email. That there's actually some very organized, methodical system for stakeholders in multiple states to be able to check in. So could you take us through maybe those two things, Zamon, the hexagon piece, and then what actually gets delivered? What's it look like?
Yeah, certainly. Before I jump into that, though, Dan, what I really wanted to share with you, just to give you kind of a bigger picture, is that for us as a company, obviously you mentioned Hexagon here. We were acquired almost 2 years ago by Hexagon. And so our focus now is international growth. And what we really wanted to share here today is the opportunity for folks to understand, how the business model works, what it is that we deliver to our clients around the world. To give you some quick facts here, we've got about 1,200 unique users accessing our system every day. We've got over 115,000 active users in our system. And Multivista is currently used by nearly 20,000 unique companies, right? And so we're looking to grow that global footprint. And obviously, the Multivista, I tell people, think of it as two things. It's a service, it's the software. So the service is our boots on the ground. We've got over 500 boots on the ground in our 75 franchise markets that go out every day onto job sites, across those markets. They're documenting it via the various scopes of service. They're indexing that, uploading it via our proprietary software, and then that's being made available to the client. And obviously that's what's caught the attention of Hexagon. It's what's allowed us to grow, and it makes us unique in this marketplace. As you touched on, our clients, they're builders, they're developers, they're owners, architects, contractors, facilities managers, all of those individuals. And so, if there is people in the Matterport universe out there in other countries that are perhaps looking at this, and this is how we were introduced, was through Immerse UK. Two individuals there who are Matterport resellers and delivering great service, great products, selling cameras into the UK. And then they saw the opportunity to further diversify and expand their territory by adopting the Multivista franchise model. And so that's what we're here today, really, is to kind of explain how that works. But with regards to the Hexagon acquisition, and what that means is that we are now part of a global technology powerhouse. So think of Multivista now as a spoke in the wheel of the Hexagon group of companies, right? And so the Hexagon vision is to play a leading role in the effort to solve challenges the world is facing by delivering IT solutions that fuel that possibility. Obviously, they employ 15,000 people across 46 countries. I believe their net sales in 2015 were about 3 billion euros. And so what that gives us is we have direct access to all of this cutting edge technology and the solutions provided to us through the Hexagon universe. And Leica GeoSystems is an excellent example of that. So Brian's role here at Multivista is very unique in that he divides his time between Multivista and Leica. And he works in both camps. Depending on the day, Brian may tell you that it's 200% from one and 300% from the other. He's a very busy man. I feel very fortunate that we have him here today, Dan, as whenever I call Brian, he's either in a mine or in a tunnel or on a plane. The guy is extremely busy, and he's traveling all around. So it's great to have him here.
Yes, so terrific. And I do want to ask, I don't know if this question is for Brian or for Zamon, but Zamon, you talked about a proprietary system for delivery. Who wants to pick up that question?
Oh, both of us. I mean, that is our MDS. That is the Multivista documentation system. So that's what's in our back end. That's obviously our secret sauce that our clients, receive and have access to. What I'm sharing with you today is any information that you can find on the website. We're not going to dive into the weeds on.
Yeah, but what I'm just trying to understand is that there is a platform that brings together all the diverse digital, the BIM model, the photos, the video, the Matterport, the scan data, and it's all delivered in a platform that makes it super easy to be the data to be accessible to the different stakeholders.
Yeah,
that is correct. Yeah.
That goes back to the beginning of how Multivista was kind of invented, right? How do we take this information and put it in the hands of everybody, the masses? And to do that, it really is building a platform that allows for project communication. It allows for unlimited users is the other nice part about our software that we have. We really encourage collaboration, and to do that, we all have to be able to speak the same language, right? So we need to be able to look at that same data set, not have the BIM guy just be looking at the point cloud and then the project manager just looking at pictures, because they're both not seeing the whole thing. So what's nice about the platform is it really democratizes the complexity, and we try to make it be as simple as really talking and being able to use that. And the other part that I think is really interesting about our platform is it doesn't just live in our platform. We have many integrations with great leading partners, Procore, Autodesk, PlanGrid. I mean, you name. And that's our key, is that we don't want to constrain the documentation and make it ours and make people have to live within our universe. We actually really want to have that documentation continue to be used downstream through direct integrations like Procore.
Cool. Well, I'm dying to get to your camera there. You got one over your shoulder that I'm drooling about. So Brian. Oh, look, everybody's got one. Hey,
where's yours, Dan?
Oh, does this count? my glass of water here. So Brian, you got two hats. Let's switch gears here for a moment and talk about the as your role in emerging as a manager of emerging technologies for Multivista. No, let's switch to Technologist of Leica GeoSystems to talk about, and is it the BLK360 or the Black 360? Let's get that mystery resolved too.
I think it depends on what side of the pond you're on, is depending on how you say if it's a BLK or if it's black, because it gets called by both. And I know the product manager that invented this, and his original thought was that it would be called the Black 360. And then as it crossed the pond, his information didn't get disseminated, and now now everybody in North America calls it the BLK 360.
Okay, so I feel okay. We haven't resolved the tomato question, but we'll probably you and I will talk about it as the BLK 360. So let's do a little show and tell.
Exactly. Yeah. So partly my background on this is coming from the construction side and engineering side. I wanted to make an impact in the industry, and that was why I really came to work for Hexagon and Multivista and Leica, because it allows me the opportunity to have some amazing equipment like the BLK 360. I'll turn it on here. It's a simple one push button. So the amazing thing about this is there's actually no cords or connections. It's 100% wireless. So the functionality is really, really simple. The battery, it's a hot swappable battery. So that again makes it really easy to use in the field. It was blinking yellow when I first turned it on, and that's kind of it's just doing its little warm up like the Matterport camera does. And I'm not sure if this shows very well, but this is actually green. And when the light turns on, it's all visual indications, right? They want it to be a simple user. You can see the prism here. So it is actually shooting a real laser. It's 360,000 points per second. So it's extremely accurate at 3 and 5 millimeter, between 3 and 5 millimeter accuracy per scan. And of course, you know,
I'm sorry, could you say that again? The accuracy.
3 to 5 millimeters per scan.
And how does that compare to Matterport?
Oh, that's the fun one. So we always say with Matterport, they used to say it was 1% of error. Now we say it's 99% accurate. So however you want to look at it, and typically what we have found with the error is what they're really talking about is the distance away from the objects that you're going to be scanning.
If I'm 100 feet away, how does
can't do that.
Matterport compare to the BLK?
Well, that's why you have this, because right now, the users in large spaces with Matterport, large buildings vertically, there's some, we know the limitations of Matterport, and it's an amazing piece of equipment, but it's not a scanner. So when that depth sensing camera reaches its maximum limitations, it just doesn't pick up any data, which then also it might pick the picture up, which is great.
Yeah.
But sometimes what we want is the picture, or I'm sorry, the data behind that picture,
yeah.
right?
Well, my impression is that the Matterport camera is good enough to scan data about a story and a half. But if I'm going out of 100 feet, I'm obviously putting multiple scans together. So if I do all my scans and I have to measure something that's 100 feet, how is that going to compare to the point cloud for the BLK360 versus a Matterport?
Yeah, so and what we're talking about here too, I like to remind everybody is beta, right? So we're working with Matterport as our partner. We've been actually working with Matterport with the BLK360 on the Leica side and Multivista. We've actually been working with Multivista before Leica.
Yeah, we have to sort this out, because I want to say today is Friday, April 27th, 2018. I want to say that on August 29th, 2017, that Multivista announced a partnership with Matterport.
Correct.
And Zamon, we'll come back to that and talk about what that partnership is. And then I want to say about a month later that Leica GeoSystems announced a partnership with Matterport.
Exactly. And we kind of inside call it the trifecta, because what we're able to do then is really leverage the power of having the hardware and the software. And it's so neat in our industry to solve problems outside of an individual confine of, well, this is a Leica product and it has to run on Leica software.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much behind the scenes working going on right now between Matterport and Leica that it is wonderful to see, because what we're talking about is solving industry problems. And it's how, again, back to we democratize data. And like we were saying earlier, that camera, the Matterport camera is fantastic, but it doesn't do it all. It's just like a hammer. We don't build a house with just a hammer. We have nail guns now. So it's that kind of same thing. And with any other tool, there's the right cases for it. The BLK360 is not the answer to everything. The drawbacks to it are it's slower. With getting all of those points and shooting out 60 meters in each direction, the mass amount of data that it's collecting is slowing it down. So when you're in a smaller space, it really is not necessarily the right tool unless you're trying to get that higher precision data. So what I like to think about it is what we call the fuse sensor technology approach, where you have to be more like an artist and you're thinking about what am I trying to capture and why is it important to that person. If they are looking for just an immersive environment, you take those kind of things into consideration as you're actually out capturing that data.
Well, I want to say that we're right now in April in a public beta for Matterport and users of the BLK360. Testing going on. We chatted with a member of the We Get Around Network Forum community recently, and I think it checked a couple boxes for him. One, he was able to shoot outdoors, period, outdoors in bright sunlight, be able to capture scanning data for a great distance. I want to say about 100 feet. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the photography was as good or better than the Matterport camera. And so he was using it in combination of using Matterport because it was a lot faster for him to scan his space. He didn't necessarily need the scan data per se, but the Matterport, the BLK360 solved the challenge for him of shooting outdoors, bright sunlight, not to have to think about trying to shoot when the sun had set, etc. What are some of the other reasons why a Matterport service provider would want to use the BLK360 in conjunction with the Matterport platform?
You know, the simplest is that it fits into your current workflow. You're still using the Capture app. The data is still getting uploaded, so the user, if they don't want to, doesn't have to do any of that registration. And when I say registration, those individual scan locations they actually still live on here. So even if you're out doing a scan combo using both the Matterport camera and this still retains all of the original scan data in its high quality. So you're still capturing that space if you wanted to go and use that later, if you wanted to hand that off, if you wanted to merge it together yourself. So those are great things of why. Now, I do think that having that combined ability to not just go outside, because going outside, being able to be inside sometimes, specifically in Showcase, you kind of want it to be so immersed that it gives you that perspective that you're walking through those spaces, right? And each space is one of those hotspots. And when you start moving outside, you can actually go a lot further with it still feeling comfortable, not that you're flying across the screen, you know?
I want to say, well, he was scanning outside around a pool, and maybe 30 feet between scans, maybe more than that.
Yeah. So and that all depends on what's around to register. Now, the other drawback when you get to a higher definition scanner is the trees and the leaves and things like that. It's picking that up, and then, which is great. But what happens in the background is Matterport is trying to auto line that, right? And it sees all these things moving, and it says, I don't know what's going on, and it won't do it. You know, those are the things that we already are worrying and thinking about using a Matterport device, right? So if somebody walks through your Matterport scan in the middle, you're like, oh, I just start over, because you know it's going to have an issue when it aligns. So it is definitely a learning process, but as you said, the imagery is very good, and Matterport is working with Leica to make sure that you can't tell what the image was taken, whether it was taken with a Matterport or whether it was taken with BLK360. They're really trying to tone all of those hues with it together. And the other nice thing that I actually really love about this is when I'm scanning with it, I can choose whether I want HDR, whether I want high definition depth, and so I'm capturing more, or if I want low definition. So that increases or decreases the speed and the cycle times.
So I could imagine if I set the BLK360 to only capture photography, because maybe that's the only thing I care about, and I'm not doing HDR, that it's going to take X minutes, maybe.
It does. Now, yeah, you can shrink that down. You're right. That's exactly right.
And if I want to shoot on HDR with the maximum
definition, yeah,
definition of a point cloud, the maximum amount of scanning data, is there a set rule that's going to take 12 minutes? It's going to take 10 minutes? It's going to take...
The longest I've having it full, everything that you possibly can is about 6 minutes.
6 minutes, okay.
Yeah, about 6 minutes. But bringing it down, like where I would say you commonly use it, it's about from the time that you scan to the time that you have it aligned in your Capture app is about 3 to 3.5 minutes from the time you hit go to the time that it auto aligns. So we know there's some period in there, right, too, that we're moving the camera for 30 seconds to the next spot.
And if I want it on the highest resolution, I don't know how to ask this question, because I would say, well, you're shooting outdoors, you don't need HDR. So is there...
HDR helps a lot with contrast areas. So it is very, very nice to have outdoors. I was in Arizona last week, and it definitely makes a difference, even if you're just using like HDR2 or 3 versus just your standard. In the imagery does take a little bit longer because of the way that actual HDR works. It's taking multiple pictures using those cameras to capture that depth.
Okay. And so there's this trade-off to say, I want the best photography, I want the best data. On the other hand, I don't have to scan with Matterport, maybe 5 to 10 feet. Now I could leap 30 feet. So maybe in overall shooting a space may take the same amount of time, even though the per scan time was much longer, significantly longer.
Exactly. And now what I've noticed though is interior wise, when I'm thinking about it like this, and I am jumping those longer distances, the comments that I typically get back are, well, I like it closer together. So, you know, because they feel like they're walking and they're really getting that immersive experience, not flying.
Well, I guess that's a good question, is to say, because many of us are shooting residential or smaller commercial spaces. And, you know, now you go to 100,000 square feet or 1,000,000 square feet or something. Do people, do the developers and owners still kind of want to feel like they're walking this space as opposed to they're leaping 30 feet at a time?
Right. And that all depends on what they're actually trying to achieve with this, right? Is it just an immersive experience, or is this something where they're trying to get that bigger, more richer data set? So,
okay,
like you said, there's definitely an art to it, and figuring that out, and that communication is very critical.
Okay, so let's bring Zamon back into the conversation. This is very complex. We got Hexagon, which is the parent company of Leica GeoSystems, the parent company of Multivista. There's partnerships between, I want to say, between Hexagon and Matterport, Leica GeoSystems and Matterport, Multivista and Matterport. So can you tie this all together in terms of maybe it's a workflow thing or seamless integration of why this is really exciting?
Well, why this is really exciting, and before I jump into that, I just want to say I always love having conversations with Brian, because I'm constantly learning. You know, that's why we have in-house subject matter experts like this guy, and we have a great team of individuals who take care of all of the different pieces of the business, right? So hearing Brian today, I'm constantly learning from him. So getting back to Hexagon, what it gives us is obviously the firepower, right? We have the ability now to go into bigger markets. It allows us to sit at the same table as these bigger companies like Procore Integration, for example, Matterport, you know, and that is because we have this massive brand behind us. And so that's what keeps us excited as we look at new emerging technologies. We have Brian that's there on the ground floor. He's seeing this stuff as it comes up over the horizon. And we always look for opportunities. How can our franchisees leverage this? How can this contribute to their bottom line? And you know, that is something that we're engaged with every day, is making sure that we can take all of this information, all of this technology, and feed it back to our growing universe of franchise owners.
So let me see if I can maybe help embellish or explain but here's my naive impression to say, okay, Multivista is delivering visual documentation to constituents such as developers and owners, general contractors, facility managers, architects, engineers, tradespeople, government agencies. And that documentation would be way better if it included Matterport. So Multivista or Hexagon goes to Matterport or vice versa and says, hey, you know, we think we could do some really interesting things if you gave us an API, and then we could integrate that with our proprietary platform of how we deliver. Brian, you're nodding yes. So help me understand why that piece is so important. If I say API, Matterport, Multivista, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's all of our the wonderful work that we've done with Matterport and their developers, with our developers as well, because we really are in a partnership together in the road of discovery. And that's kind of what's neat here is how do we push each other to work on the next thing, or what is that next thing going to look like? And we all know sometimes our ideas aren't the best ideas, so it's worth it to have that sounding board to go off of. But having that open SDK conversation of sharing roadmaps really accelerates how fast we can adopt new technology, and most importantly, how fast we can democratize it. When you begin to think about scanning in general, you know, it's been around a long time. It's been around since the 70s, and now it's finally in a form factor like this at a very inexpensive price comparative to what it's been. So, and that doesn't just happen by chance, right? That's by people collaborating together and working together, and you're going to see, I think, more of that in the industry in the future. And it's very important to have those alliances and strategic approaches.
So as a result of that SDK, I mean, one of the things that I feel like has been a result of this partnership is that we, as a Matterport service provider, we have deep links so that we can not just fly into, this is the front page view, but I could literally fly into an electrical outlet on the 27th floor to find it. Is that an example that you all pioneered in that SDK relationship?
And those are the kind of things where it does, you know, if you talk to Matterport, they'll say their expertise is providing that software for that immersive experience and being able to capture it very quickly and easily so that anybody can do it. And then adding in some other special details from, like, say, Multivista, for example, where we have those skill sets to be able to say, hey, we know what light switches are. We happen to have, I don't remember how many millions of billions of pictures last time we talked, but we have these resources. So teaming together really makes a good situation for both plays.
So I don't know what the right word is, whether that's artificial intelligence or machine learning or whatever it is, but it sounds like if you could feed a bazillion construction images through the learning process, that it would be really easy to go find all those electrical outlets in a building, because this is what they look like.
Yeah, and you know, we're talking, you know, future opportunities, but this is where, you know, the industry is going. This is what Matterport's technically already done. They're exporting floor plans, right? Being able to that's awesome to be able to take something and put it up in the cloud and click the button and say, yes, I want a matter pack, and out comes a point cloud and out comes your floor plans. That type of interaction, not having to be a CAD expert, not having to be a point cloud expert, but being a subject matter expert of the Matterport camera or the BLK360 really is that next step of democratization of all data, and that just leads into what is possible, you know, deviation detection, you know, like you said, machine learning, these kind of things. Because what we don't have in our minds right now is what is built around us, sitting in our houses, in our studios, and everywhere else. And documentation, when I say that, it's very loosely, just reality capture is what I like to really say, because it's instantaneous and it's taking a picture of not just one thing, but everything.
I'm going to try and change my vernacular to say reality
capture. Yes.
Reality capture.
Absolutely.
I'll have an RC and a moon pie with that. So help me understand. Let's say, and I'm not sure if this is Zamon or Brian. The top three things that are different, that are proprietary, that a client that has Multivista receives that they wouldn't get if a Matterport or BLK photographer was providing to the client. And I think one of the things I heard was a proprietary delivery platform that has this deep link process so that you could probably click on anything and literally fly into the right spot in the Matterport space. Is that a piece of it, the puzzle?
Go ahead, Zamon.
Brian, you answered, but yeah, you nailed it there. We're flying into the right space.
Literally, that's that. I mean, I would imagine that and maybe Brian, this is from your roots in your history, the ability to say, I don't want to flip through a ton of pages. I can't go through boxes and boxes of photographs if that's how it used to be. I just want to say, tap here, and it literally flies in, and now I see the Matterport space and the relationship of this to that to the other.
Yeah, and even same thing as everybody's used to talking in 3D is great, 3D is amazing, but just having a multiple ways to access the same information, because you think a little bit different than I do, it helps engage more people, and it also creates better return on the investment for that owner or all those stakeholders. So you're exactly right. Simplicity is definitely, I would say, at the helm of all of our decisions and our process, whether it is from the franchise level of actually going and dealing with our clients in the field. We try to make it as easy as and as good of a process as possible, and the user experience on the back end with the software side, all the way from usage rights all the way to data management. We don't care how much data we have up there. We don't charge you any more, any less. So we don't break it down like that, which is nice, because we really encourage the collaboration. And when we collaborate, it's amazing what the projects are able to do. And you see, like you were seeing, Zamon was saying earlier, the amount of users that log into our system is really, really impressive.
So so that now that we have this hexagon, Leica GeoSystems, Multivista, Matterport, all playing nice together, the first example we talked about was the ability to go tap on a button, go fly into a particular item that you want to see in the reality capture view, in the 360 view. What else? What other things do you get if you're a client of Multivista that is completely better because of this strategic alliance partnership that's going on?
Right. Well, first of all, it's our teams, right? So it's the local boots on the ground representatives there that know the local market, that can interface, that we have, whether it be on the support side, from the project implementation side, so steering and guiding the client through those processes, and that's what we do best. And as I said earlier, think of Multivista as the service and the software. It's those two pieces, and it's that marriage of those two pieces that really makes us unique, and obviously has the client coming back again and again and using Multivista.
Yeah, so that part I understand, which is place one order, get your photos, video, Matterport, scanning data, drone, live cam, painted rocks, whatever it might be, all as one video for aerial, video for all part of the reality capture. Learned a new term, part of the reality capture. But now that I have that all delivered to me, I'm still trying to understand what else am I getting that's Matterport related, that's different as a result of that partnership, either because of the BLK360 or because of the Multivista piece.
The simplest is that having that tie with Hexagon really allows us that, which is the opportunity to work with Leica, and that's where I am so excited to be involved with this. We're bringing in not just opportunities like with the BLK, but we also are bringing in crazy things like, I don't know if you've ever seen it or heard of it, but it's called the Pegasus backpack. And again, it's a mobile mapping solution. And so having the ability to leverage those kind of things really helps not just the data capture side, but then the software side to be able to quickly and accurately figure out where you're at with these very complicated data sets, and then use them downstream as well. So we have custom built-in integrations beyond what the normal user would get in Matterport. Let's put it that way, without going into all the
I'll stop asking. I didn't realize it was proprietary. I just thought I'd ask the question. Okay, you got the Matterport SDK. What are you doing with it? We'd kind of like to know. But
so
will I see you at Spar 3D?
I will.
I will. Okay.
Brian,
How many beers does it take to get a little bit of the juice out of you?
No, just a good nerd session is perfect for me. And
okay, I'm pretty geeky. I can do that. You know, I've assumed that our audience actually knows what we're talking about. I know we have a very sophisticated audience who's interested in this whole topic of Leica GeoSystems BLK Black 360, whatever side of the pond you're on. This whole Multivista conversation, the partnerships between Matterport and the different players. But Brian, how about actually giving us a little show and tell on taking us through a Matterport 3D tour that was created in part with the BLK360, and maybe you could highlight that for us. Is that something you could do a little show and tell for us?
Yeah, while I do that, I'm also, I'll show you my iPad here.
Okay.
Everybody's kind of seen this.
Yep.
Standard thing. You can actually, hopefully it's not too bad, but you can actually see it's starting to scan. And if you look behind me in the background, it's going through and doing its initial scan. So it runs off of Wi-Fi. So while it's doing that, Dan, if you wouldn't mind, let me give me access to share my screen over here, and I will show you another model here. So this is something. Let's see. Oops.
And while you're setting up, Brian, I'm just going to mention too, we do have a number of members that are in the virtual studio audience. I'm going to plan to bring you on screen after Brian finishes up. So if you don't want to be on camera, just please sign off. Watch the show on WGAN-TV, WGAN-TV.com. But otherwise, we'll plan to bring you on screen so that you can ask questions directly from Zamon and Brian. Okay, Brian, you got your screen up. We're in Matterport Workshop.
Everybody's seen Matterport Workshop probably. There's actually very little newness that they've done here. But what you'll see right away, and I wanted to start from the outside in giving you an example of what this actually is doing, and you'll see right away how much more area there is. So we've all seen pictures of cute dogs and me that I hate it when I get in the camera. So this is nothing new, but when we actually, I'll make this bigger. When we actually fly out, now we can begin to see the power of the BLK360. The tops of these trees, all the way up the driveway, and now what I absolutely love about this is we're able to capture images that we hadn't been able to before, right? We can actually truly capture architecture. And so this was one of the original ones. So see how we have the stitching in here? This model was done months ago. They've gotten rid of all of that. And I'll show you some examples, but low light settings. This isn't something that you used to be able to do with just a standard Matterport camera. The big jumps, we were talking, that was about 50 feet. You can see right away how far we can go with this. And I always like saying, look at the puck, right? You can follow the puck on the ground and see how far this 3D data is actually draped and wrapped around our project. Looking into bright sun used to always be a problem. This I'll show you on another one.
Yeah, I think I've scanned successfully about 8,000 square feet outdoors, but I'll tell you, that's like really an art. Then you really have to know what you're doing in order to fool the camera to have success with Matterport. So I would say with the BLK360, you just go out and scan, and you don't have to think about your outdoors. It's sunlight.
Exactly. And it is the best part that I was saying too that I really like about it is that you're not changing your workflow. As a user, you are doing exactly what you've already been doing with your Matterport camera before. So it's very, very simple.
You want to hold up your iPad again? Can you show us the icon that changed when you were using the BLK?
Yeah, definitely. I waited too long. The camera already shut down.
Yeah.
So here.
Timed out on you.
Timed out. Yeah. So here's one one notable difference. Everybody see that green icon? That's the difference. Am I close enough?
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference that you're going to notice. But also, I just did one scan, and I have the whole room and outside. You see?
Yeah. So that's that.
Outside.
So every while in Matterport Capture in the app, there's going to be an icon that sits on top of any scan that came from the BLK360.
Exactly. It still allows you to just take your 360 images as well, which is kind of nice if you didn't want to capture that data. That allows you to do that. And I'll show you one more model over here real quick. And I like doing this because I'm a technologist. Everybody says, what is a technologist? And it's really a creative term for people that like to play with a bunch of toys and see what they can actually do with it. And one of those things that we did was a few weeks ago. I was in a mine, and I said, what can we do with Matterport and BLK360 in a mine? And believe it or not, it worked like a champ. So let's go back out to showcase.
I want to say you can scan in darkness with the BLK360. You're not going to capture the photography necessarily, but you'll have all the scan data.
Correct. And in this is truly a fused sensor approach where we were using both exterior and interior for the BLK360. But when we were going short distances and I was trying to capture some more of the data in these areas, then I was able to use the Matterport as well. And what's great is I can flip back and forth. It doesn't matter about loop closures. It doesn't matter about where I start from. It's the same process of which you've always worked, and the algorithms that they've put in place to have really gotten a lot faster to do these alignments and these loop closures.
Mm-hmm. What would be a use case on this mine? Just curious.
So yeah, so speaking of out there and off the wall kind of things that we do at Hexagon, we have a large mining side of things, and that large mining group is very concerned with life safety. So having the ability to have anyone interact remotely and help first responders or assess a situation, or even just the general status of a mine, just its regular day-to-day information, is hugely valuable to everybody and all the stakeholders. And you can see, so this is the latest refinements. So you see all the stitching errors are gone.
Right.
So it's a very clean and clear picture. It's not losing any of the 3D data. And I should have done this, but I didn't want to nerd out too much. But I have the point cloud of all this as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Let's give us the full experience. That would be great.
Very.
And
very
Antonio, we'll come to you shortly check in if you have any questions.
So the part of the fun of my job is I get to play with a lot of different tools.
You have to go through special training to go scan within a mine?
Actually, you do, which is funny. Mines are one of the safest places that I've ever been. It sounds odd to say, but the training, the safety, they take it. We take it very serious in construction, but we take it even more serious in mines. So it was actually the University of Arizona School of Mines. So I'm gonna give them a little prop here. And I'm opening up Cyclone so we can take a look at our view, and you'll notice this is not a not as easy as running through Matterport by any means. Mm-hmm. But the data and the results that we get, oh no, it's not showing.
Okay. And
because you don't see that, do you?
No. But maybe you can stop share screen and then go into share screen again, and perhaps it's in a different window.
Let's try that. There we go. Yeah, that works. So you can actually see back at the beginning here.
And what program are you using?
This is called Leica Cyclone. It's a point cloud viewing program. I can edit, manipulate.
And did this data come directly from the BLK360, or was this as part of the Matterpack export?
Yes, this is a Matterpack export, which I always love sharing with people.
And Matterpack it lets you export different kinds of files. Which file type was this? Was this a .pts file?
Actually, they only export in E50. I'm sorry, export in XYZ. So this is a XYZ file that we brought in.
Okay.
And there is color data as well, which is also.
Is that color telling us something?
Well, it's only as smart as a point cloud. Let's see, there's the gray. Oh, I don't know why the color isn't turning on, but the color information is there. The problem with color and point clouds in general, and where Matterport really comes in strongly, is that with the use of just a point cloud by itself, it doesn't tell us that this rock here is what type of strata it is. It doesn't tell us if it's shotcrete. It doesn't tell us if it's dirt. So we still rely on photo and imagery to help us assess what that information really is, right?
Can you tell what it is by looking at this?
That's why we can go into here. You can, if I must not have the color files loaded. Let's go back into that exact same spot.
Okay.
So we can compare the two together, which will be kind of fun. So we were standing right here in my model, and I can flip back here real quick. Hopefully I don't freak it out like I did the last time.
Okay.
There you go. You see it still. So we were standing right about here. Those are the doors. You can see the level of detail is pretty high. The quality of scan is not as high of quality if you want to get actually super detail and see the real raw scan. So the nice thing, like I was saying, that happens is you're collecting data as you're collecting data with the BLK360, it also is recording it on the BLK360. So here is, let me go back to about where we were standing.
And was there a reason that you outputted it through the Matterpack rather than right from the BLK360, or is this just proof of concept to be able to say, hey, we could run all this data through the Matterport platform, export it, and it works the same way as if we were doing the BLK export?
Yeah, it's a proof of concept and play with it. We also did full high definition scanning throughout the entire tunnel using a very high P40 scanner. And then I also ran through it with the Pegasus backpack. So we did multi-sensors, and we're analyzing the data and figuring out, a lot of times,
is the Pegasus compatible with Matterport using the Capture app?
It's not. It would be wonderful it was. But those are those kind of like what if kind of situations we like to ponder when we have good friends at Matterport.
Okay, cool. How about taking us off screen share? I'm going to bring in Antonio, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You've been standing by here. Brian, great. Antonio, how about introducing yourself and tell us where you are, what you do, and then ask your question.
Antonio Toro, 360.
Having a little bit of trouble hearing you, maybe on the mic.
How about now?
A little bit higher.
Can you make it any louder?
Okay. Let me see. I don't know if it's going to work out.
Okay, we're going to listen really carefully.
So I do 360 photography, virtual tours, and we do inspection services, including inspection documentation for insurance claims and things like that.
Where are you located and what's your company?
Orlando, Florida, FSG Inspections.
Okay, great. FSG Inspections in Orlando, Florida. And it sounds like you got some questions for either Zamon or Brian.
Yeah, it was related to the BLK 360 and transferring from the scans of how difficult it would be into Revit in a BIM model.
Very good question. The greatest thing about that workflow is it's been documented for years, and Autodesk is working very hard to streamline it. And part of, again, back to the relationships, Leica has a very good, strong relationship with Autodesk. So you can actually process any data, whether it's from a BLK360 or even if it comes out of Matterport as a Matter pack, and import that into Recap. That's basically their intake of any point cloud data, and it puts it into what's called an RCP format. And that RCP stands for recap file. And that recap file then can be opened up in absolutely any Autodesk suite. So instead of having multiple versions for each different piece of software, whether you're in Revit or whether you're in MEP or even Civil 3D, that point cloud file RCP will allow you to open that right up in there. And it operates very lightly too because of the architecture that they put behind it.
The reason why I ask is because the price point isn't an issue. The price point's really good for what it does, but I already have 360 photography, equipment and things like that, and I'm trying to figure out, is it worth going to the next level? And how difficult will it be then to use its full capabilities and turn that product into floor plans and 3D models and BIM to be used for even bigger things?
Yeah, and what you're outlining there is that I get that question all the time, and it's an industry education, I think, is the best way to put it. So you're not by yourself in wondering, what is that going to look like? The other kind of interesting thing is you get all levels of architects. You get architects that literally all they do is just draw in 3D, and then you still get guys that are drawing on paper. And trying to articulate that value of having that reality captured space, knowing exactly what's there, means something different to each one of those stakeholders. So there's not a single answer, unfortunately, until we have better understanding of what a point cloud deliverable is. So the US IBD is working very hard to more or less put a standard out there, kind of like, if you know BIM at all, there's what they call a LOD, level of detail, and they're trying to do the same thing like that for point clouds, and that can roll over into immersive as well, because what you're talking about is an industry problem of we're taking very complicated data and trying to get something simple out of it, like a floor plan. And that's why I love Matterport, right? It really makes it so easy to click a button, and in less than 24 hours, or about 24 hours, you have a pretty close floor plan, closer than anything you get, and closer than what you would get if you went out there for a day with a laser tape measure and a piece of paper. So
we do it now.
and sometimes it works. I hate to say it, but it does. But when you start getting on some of the bigger things, and you'll find too the change in the industry where clients are willing to start to pay for more of this data, and that's an industry trend. The more technical data as the industry matures, and as the people making the decision processes get younger and are more familiar with technology, the need for more accurate, higher data sets grows. But the problem with more data is that we don't have time to sit here and process this data, do we? I don't. I got plenty of other things to do. So it's a matter of how do we work smarter, not harder. And I look to software to solve that problem, and know there's no simple solution for it right now.
But I could also imagine collecting all this volume of data has now been dramatically simplified because of the Multivista platform, so that you can have as much or as little data as you want or need. So if you just want to look at a simple floor plan for Matterport, I imagine you could do that. But if you need to look at the I made some notes here on the MEP, to look at the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing that's actually underneath that Matterport schematic floor plan. You could drill down to literally the BIM to take a look at it.
Exactly. And then all of that information could be used outside of the Multivista environment as well. So back to the BIM integration, it's nice to know that we link directly with Autodesk in Revit files. So if you wanted to, instead of looking at a floor plan to find all of your images or your scans, you actually can have those links in the BIM integration as well.
I think I want to go back to Zamon again. Was on. I think you talked about, and maybe it was Brian, the life of a project. Maybe it takes you 3 years to scan it, but the building's going to be around for 100 years. Mm-hmm. Do you have a way to export all the digital assets so that it can be locally hosted and not in the Matterport cloud that includes the Matterport?
I can't speak to the Matterport side, but certainly on the 2D side, the client has the opportunity. They can either we host that data and they continue to receive, they pay into a hosting plan and have access to it. Obviously, there's a lot more functionality with it. Or we can give them, the photos and either burn that, put it onto a CD-ROM or whatever, right? They can have that information.
But does that include the Matterport as well?
I'll let Brian answer. I don't actually have that answer for you, Dan.
So yes, you can download the Matterport model, right? And it can be a standalone, but the catch is, as we all know, once you download it, you can't upload it. So I know that they're working on
download it, meaning you can download the data.
Offline. Yes.
The data version.
You can download the data version, but it doesn't live. You can't reincarnate it again, right? It's not like reprocessing it. Once it's processed, and you don't have those original scans anymore, and you download that data, and I don't mean per se like a Matter pack, I mean the actual Matterport model, then you can never get that back up in the Matterport viewer.
Define download. Help me understand this.
Offline, just
how? What's it look like?
It's a Matterport's proprietary file is how it is right now.
Can you do something with that?
You can still use it to view, just like you do, how you've got on your iPad, you've got the
Matterport Showcase app, and I can download a model into that.
Offline.
So do you have a Showcase version that's baked into the Multivista platform to enable that?
For offline stuff, we typically, our whole platform is not meant to be offline at all. Okay. We can do specific hosting, like some government agencies do not like, links to the outside world and those kind of things. So you can do different methods to make sure that not just is the data still alive, but it doesn't just live on a server and not get used.
Okay, not sure I've gotten my answer, but I won't press you any more. It's SPAR 3D, maybe.
There you go. And Matterport will be there too. So
yeah, right. Making sure you're not drinking too much. And Antonio, yes, it's a great questions. Did you have a follow up?
Not right now.
No. Okay, great. And I think before we wrap it up, I just wanted to kind of just, I had a couple questions, and we'll see, Zamon, Brian, if you had things that we hadn't covered that we should cover. Zamon, I want to say I heard that you have franchises in 75 markets.
That's correct.
75.
Yes.
Are all those markets, do they all presently have a Matterport camera? If you're watching this, you're a Matterport service provider, and your ears perk up and go, oh, well, maybe I should check if there's a Multivista in my market. If it's in my market, maybe they don't have Matterport. Maybe I can do scans for them. Can you walk me through that conversation?
Yeah, the majority of franchise owners do. Where I can't tell you, which city and where specifically. However, they are busy delivering, the scans, and that's just one piece, right? Remember, the bulk of our work is still 2D documentation. That's
I asked just in case you're a Matterport service provider and you say, hey, maybe there's a Multivista in my market. If they're in my market, maybe I should call, and they'll either say, one of three things. We have a Matterport camera today. Thank you. No, thank you. We are planning to get a Matterport camera. Thank you. No, thank you. Or we don't do that much Matterport. So maybe there's a chance, but frankly, if we end up doing a lot of Matterport, we're going to go buy a Matterport camera. So in the long term, it's probably not an opportunity. I just want to clear that up for our viewers, because they may be thinking, oh, there's an opportunity.
Right, absolutely. And it's pretty much both 1 and 2 in terms of your answers. Most have Matterport's cameras and are delivering work on top of all the other work in the different stages of construction and all the different scopes of service that we deliver. So it's part of their arsenal, I guess.
Okay. Zamon, I know you had some video. Did perhaps we've covered what was in the video? Did you want to show the video?
Yeah, no. The video is there available. I was just going to suggest too, in terms of if people want to find out more, I can put up a slide here if we want to do a screen share, but we also have a YouTube channel. We've got a lot of videos there.
Sorry, I called up the wrong screen here, I believe. So give me a moment, and I think I got it now. I see a YouTube, and it's playing. Let me get to that. Just take me a second. Okay, and let me take you back to that beginning. Hit play.
There you go. So so this is available on our YouTube site. You can see, gives you a quick snapshot of what we do. And obviously, if you're a Matterport service provider in international locations and you're looking to learn more about Multivista, you're welcome to reach out to us via our website, we've got all these different social media channels that you can do so. Happy to continue the conversation, but I just wanted to reiterate that our goal going forward here is global expansion, and that's my role primarily in the company, is to educate and to share information, just like we did with the Immerse UK gentleman. The opportunity that's available, and right now we're speaking to folks in around the world, Australia, Sweden. We're talking to people in Ireland, the UAE, all over. So if this resonates with you, then we can continue that conversation. But like I said, this gives you a quick snapshot. There's a lot more information. There's more videos on that YouTube site that really delve into some of the workflows, some of the IP. All of that public-facing information has been there for some time. It'll certainly give you a deeper, richer understanding of what it is that we do, and I encourage you to take a look at that. And if you want to reach out to me, my email is z.kingi@multivista.com. And it's pretty simple. Brian's is the same. It's b.smith@multivista.com. That's probably the quickest way. Or go to our website and submit your information that way, and we'll be happy to reach out to you.
And the website is multivista.com, multivista.com. I would say if you want to know more about the BLK360, I would do one of two things. One, certainly go into the We Get Around Network forum, use the search bar. We've tagged all the discussions BLK360. So if you find one of the discussions in the We Get Around Network forum, you can look at the tag, click on that, and find more. And then I would say if you want to find, Brian, you're going to correct me here perhaps, but I would say if you want to find the official Leica GeoSystems BLK360 page, you're probably best off Googling that, and you'll end up on that page because it's deep within the organization to actually find that product. Brian, you want to correct me on that? You got a shortcut?
They do have a BLK360 direct page that takes you straight to it. I was just going to look it up real quick.
You can always, literally, if you just Google Leica, Leica, GeoSystems BLK360, it's going to be the first thing that pops up is your page.
Yeah.
That'll catch you there.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat things that they're doing with it, even outside of mines or residential or commercial. There's movies, and we're talking with some movie producers that were using it for screens, and
Yeah,
great applications.
Cool. So Brian, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about?
Nope, just I did do a scan of both. So hopefully you can see both.
Yeah, we saw Matterport spinning there behind you a little bit earlier. So, yep, got it.
And it's just as easy as your normal workflow.
Yeah, I would say that was one of the comments of the member of the We Get Around Network Forum who's been testing in the public beta of the Matterport plus the Leica BLK360. So, well, what's the workflow like? Well, it's the same thing. You open the Matterport capture app, and it's gonna discover the BLK360 just like it discovers Matterport on the Wi-Fi network, and boom, you're off and running, and there really isn't any learning curve. I have to ask this question because when I was talking with that member, he was very concerned about the tripod, and he showed it to us, and all I could think of is maybe he didn't unfold it correctly, because he said we normally use Matterport at about 60 inches in height, and he couldn't get the BLK360 camera to be at the same height. So he if he's trying to go through a space and the camera's at different height level, he was challenged. So what he literally did, you're going to be frightened hearing this, is he took sofa things that extend the leg of a sofa.
Yeah.
You're talking about what? How much is the camera now? 18,500.
18,000, yeah.
500. He had each of his tripod legs on sofa extenders in order to get the BLK. Oh my gosh! And it was a windy day. It was a windy day when he was doing this. So was he not doing the tripod correctly, that he couldn't get the same 60-inch height of his Matterport?
You can see behind me that they are the same height. I can get them to be whatever they want. But the key is I don't, the tripod that you can buy with it is very compact and portable, which is nice because of those two things. But in the production environment that we all live in, it's not my weapon of choice. So we all kind of have our own go-tos, for tripods and what we depend on. And this can adapt to anything. One of the great things about it that I didn't show you is, it has a little kind of adapter in the bottom.
I guess we were all surprised it didn't have a standard head for a typical professional tripod. There must be some reason for that that's beyond us.
Well, this is a little adapter here. Let me show you. This is the secret. So you can have this little guy, which the BLK just sits right on. It has a quick lock on it, and then it's got the simple 3/8 standard camera adapter on the bottom. Yeah, that's your key, because then you can actually put it on your standard Matterport camera or your Matterport tripod as well.
Yeah. Okay. So you may get the Leica BLK360 tripod for the compactness and the ability that it's light to travel and move quickly, but you still may want to buy the adapter so that you can put it on your normal professional tripod and get to the same height, because it was short.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And I would agree with everything that he's probably witnessed and evaluated. I can tell you too that there's going to be sometime, it's not my product, but I do know that they're working on a new tripod for it, specifically to address those user issues and concerns that had come up.
On the height, it was origami, and it looked really nice and compact, but it was like, it just felt like, oh gosh, it's about 6 inches shorter than what, in order for him to shoot at the height that he was normally shooting at, he couldn't do that. So it's like, oh my gosh, sofa leg extenders. All right, Brian, thank you. Brian, thank you for being on the show. So much appreciated. Great to see you. Look forward to seeing you. SPAR 3D Expo and Conference. I want to say that's something like June 3rd through 6th, 2018. I may have the dates wrong in
Anaheim.
In Anaheim. I'm going to 3 conferences on one trip, so I'm a little bit mashugana. So in Anaheim, California. Zamon, anything we didn't cover today with you?
No, I think we're good. And like I said, if folks want to learn more, reach out to us through our website.
Multivista.com. Multivista.com.
Franchise.
/franchise. And Antonio, did you have another follow-up question? Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Sorry.
Thank you, Dan. I really enjoy your Live at 5. Quality stuff.
Thank you. We have a fan. How about thumbs up from everybody? Because we'll put this on. But Brian, thumbs up. Let's do thumbs up because we'll actually do this. We'll do this like we'll have our little still for YouTube or something. So
there you go.
Wait, everybody's got to do it at the same time. And you have to smile. Good. All right. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Zamon. And thank you, Antonio. Appreciate it. You all been watching WGAN-TV Live at 5. Our guest today were Brian Smith, subject matter expert on the BLK360. He has 2 titles, Product Manager of Emerging Technologies for Multivista and Technologist of Leica GeoSystems. And we were also visiting with Multivista Director of Franchise Sales, Zamon Kingi. If you missed any portion of the show and you want to see it, we have recorded it. We will post it in the We Get Around Network Forum. You can find us at WGA. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, you can find us at WGAN-TV.com. That'll take you right to the show, and you'll be able to see a recording of that. So, hey, all, again, Brian, thanks again. Zamon, thanks again. And Antonio, thank you for being a fan of the show. How about that? Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you all for tuning in to WGAN-TV Live at 5.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay. Thank you. Good to see you all. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye. I'm running out the door with my wife. So good to see you all. Thank you. And
see you. Bye-bye.